Hello and welcome to my video. In this video, I'm going to introduce sampling on a PSR 463 keyboard. And I'll start by explaining what is sampling. Then I'll talk about why would you want to do it. And then finally, I'll show you how do you do it. So let's start with what is sampling. Let's say I record a sound and then I bring that sound into my E463 keyboard, and the keys on my keyboard can play that sound just like all the other voices. What could you sample? The actual answer is anything that makes a sound. I can go and get my guitars or my banjos or my ukuleles and I can sample those. I could get a violin or a viola or a cello. I could have a string quartet and I could sample that. I could go over to the church or the cathedral in my town and I could sample the organ or a pipe organ. I could go get a friend who plays a cello and I could sample that. I could go to one of the big auditoriums or perhaps one of the large churches in my town and I could sample one of their big fancy multi-thousand-dollar pianos. I could take a singer and I can sample their voice and turn my keyboard into their voice. I could go and sample an entire choir so that now my keyboard will play a choir. I could get someone to come and play a flute, and I could record and sample that flute so that my keyboard now plays a flute, or a trombone, or a trumpet, or a saxophone, or any instrument in the orchestra. Just for fun, I could go get my little 6-month-old Yorkie puppy, Lulu, and I could sample one of her barks. And why would I want to do that? Maybe I want to have a song where Lulu sings by barking the melody. Or perhaps there's a sound in my Tyros 5, which, by the way, has 1,500 voices in it. Maybe there's a sound in here that I would like to be able to play in my E463 keyboard. By using sampling, I could bring any of the sounds, any of the instruments or voices in this keyboard and play them on my E463. So the simple answer is I could sample because there's a sound or an instrument I would like to play in my E463 and it's not built in. So how do you record the sounds and get them into the E463? Well, I start by I record a sample sound or an instrument with my iPhone, or it could be my iPad or my Macintosh, but in this example, I'll just use my iPhone. And then I plug my iPhone into the auxiliary in connection, which is on the back of my E463 keyboard, and then I record the sample sound into my E463. So the secret is record it on your iPhone and then pull it in from the iPhone into the E463. That's the only way to get these sounds in. So in my example, I'm going to start with my guitar, and I'll play my guitar. All I have to do is play a single note. That's all it takes, just one note from the guitar, and I will record that into my iPhone. Then I'll get my keyboard, and I'll hook my iPhone up to my keyboard using the AUX IN, the auxiliary in connection on the back of my keyboard. So play my guitar, record it in the iPhone, play the iPhone as I record it into my E463 keyboard. That's the entire process. Why would I want to sample? Because I want to play an instrument or a sound that is not installed in my E463 keyboard. And I want all of the keys of my keyboard to be able to play that sound. And of course, you're going to hear all of this in just a moment. So in this video, I am going to sample 3 sounds and store them in a USB thumb drive in my E463. I'll play and record a harmonica, and I'll be able to hear that harmonica being played in my keyboard. I'm going to go get my acoustic guitar, and I will sample that and bring that sound into my keyboard. And just for fun, I'm going to go get one of those crystal wine glasses in my wine cabinet, and I will record the sound of that crystal glass being thumped. So those are the 3 sounds that I'm going to bring into my E463 keyboard. So how do you sample on an E463 keyboard? Let's go through the steps. Number 1, record your sounds into your iPhone. And in my video, I'm going to record my harmonica. I've got a real nice harmonica. I paid about $150 for it. It's a good Horner German, made in Germany. And then I'm going to go get my acoustic guitar and I'll sample that. And then I'll go get one of my wife's crystal wine glasses and we will hit this and we will record the sound of that crystal wine glass. So these are the 3 sounds that I'm going to sample into my E463 keyboard. And by the way, I use GarageBand on my iPhone to record my sample sounds. First of all, it's free. I don't even have to pay for it. And second of all, it's very good quality, and I can go in and I can edit. For example, I can trim out all of the silent parts. Maybe I started recording a little too soon before I actually plunked the guitar or before I actually hit the wine glass, and I can edit out all of that dead silence. I don't want any dead space, any dead silence in my recordings. And GarageBand lets me do that very easily. And it runs on my iPhone, my iPad, and my Macintosh. And I could use any one of those 3 to do what I'm doing. I'm going to use the iPhone because there are over 1 billion people around the earth that currently own an iPhone. So step 2, I've got the sound recorded using GarageBand. I will plug my iPhone into the AUX in, the auxiliary in jack in the back of my E463 keyboard. So I get a cable and just plug my iPhone right here. Step 3, press the quick sampling button on the keyboard. And it's right here, and it's clearly labeled quick sampling. So you press that, and the minute you do, your screen says press key. Okay? So press the quick sampling, and the screen will now say press key. So here's step 4. Reach out with your finger and press the middle C key on the keyboard. Now, truth is, you could press lots of keys. I'm going to make this real simple. Every time I do this, I always just press the middle C key. So I'm telling you, press the middle C key. And the minute you do, your screen is going to look like this. It's now going to say press REC, press record. Okay? So that's step 4. Here's step 5. You're going to press the record button, and then immediately I'm going to start playing the sound recording on my iPhone. So it's click, click. Now, you don't want to do them simultaneously. You want to press your record button on your keyboard first, but don't hesitate. Don't wait around. I want to immediately start playing the sound that I have recorded. In my first example, I'm going to be playing the guitar sound. So to give you some idea of how fast this happens, it would go something like this. Click, 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 click. Okay? Click this one, and then almost immediately start playing your sound. Don't wait around, because if you do, you're going to record what I call dead silence on your sample, and you don't want that. So click, click. That's step 5. Here's step 6. Press the record button to stop the recording once you have captured the sound. Now, most of my sound recordings are only a second or two long. So I'm going to click this to start recording, click my iPhone, and then listen to the tone, the note, and as soon as it dies away, I'll press the record button once again to stop the recording. So the record button starts the recording and stops the recording. Okay? Finally, right back where I started, I will press the quick sampling button, and that exits everything. So at this point, I will have brought in that recording of my guitar, and now all of these keys, finally, from the lowest C, which is the C1, all the way up to B4, all of these keys now play that guitar sound that I have sampled and brought in. Okay? And that was my purpose. I want to hear my keyboard playing my guitar. And that's why I sampled it. So how long can a sample sound be? For example, maybe I'm sampling a bell, and you know a bell rings a long time. It's a simple answer. You can have up to 9.6 seconds. That's how long you can sit there and record your sound. That's a long time. Most samples are only going to be 2 or 3 seconds. But let's say you did record a bell in a church and you want to hear that bell ring and ring and ring. You've got 9 seconds to get everything recorded. Now let me talk about the 2 biggest mistakes, and I know these mistakes because I made them. Number 1, you record dead silence in your iPhone at the beginning of your recording. So what it means is I started recording, but I waited a second or two before I plunked my guitar, and that dead silence was recorded into my sample, and I don't want that. I want that sound to start immediately. The second one is you waited too long to start playing the iPhone after you hit the record button on your E463. So remember, I made a big deal about going click, 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 starting those two almost simultaneously. What if you went click, click? What if you waited a second between starting the iPhone after you started the record button on your keyboard? You would record that dead silence, that dead space, and you don't want that. It took me a while to figure that out, so I'm sharing that experience with you. You do not want dead silence recorded into your sample. So this will take some patience and some practice. You're not going to probably get it right the first or second time, but hang in there, trial and error. You will quickly learn how long to wait between pressing record on the keyboard and pressing the start button to play your sample. The truth is, it took me about 3 minutes of trial and error before I finally figured out how to press the record and the play button. And you'll go through that too. That's okay. That's life. Can I save more than one sample? The answer is yes. You can save samples into a USB thumb drive, but you can only load in one at a time into the keyboard. So I'm going to sample a guitar and a harmonica and a crystal wine glass. And I have all three of those, and I will store them out on my thumb drive. But I can only bring one of those sounds into my keyboard at a time. So if I bring in the guitar, that's it. I can't play anything other than that guitar. If I bring in the wine glass, that's it. All of the keys on my keyboard play the wine glass. I can't mix and match. I can't have some keys playing the guitar and some keys playing the harmonica, or I can't switch back and forth real fast between the harmonica and the guitar. You pull in the sound from your USB thumb drive and you load it in, and that's it. So let's go live to the E463 keyboard and create a sample. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you sampling my acoustic guitar. It turns out I have a number of guitars. You have a number of guitars built into your E463 keyboard. They're okay. They're not great. And there is a harmonica sound built into the E463 keyboard. You know, I don't like it at all. It really doesn't sound a whole lot like a harmonica. So I wanted to be able to play my harmonica, which I love the sound of. And that's the big reason of why would you sample, is you want to play an instrument. Maybe that's a real instrument, you know, a real trumpet or a real guitar or a real harmonica. And you can have your keyboard playing those real sounds. That's the reason I want to sample. Let's go do it live. Now I'm ready to record my harmonica, my guitar, and my wine glass. So I have my iPhone sitting here on this box, and the microphone is pointed at me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the harmonica, the guitar, and the wine glass into GarageBand. And each of the instruments will be recorded in a separate track so that I can play them back when it's time to bring it into the E463. So I've got GarageBand up and running, and I think I'll start with the guitar. So I've decided that's the string that I'm going to record. So I'm ready to hit the record button, and when I do, GarageBand starts off with a countdown. You'll hear a tick, 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 and then it starts recording. So here we go. And what I'll do is I'll record 3 notes, and then I'll pick out the best one later. Ready? Let's start. And stop. Okay, so I've got my guitar, and now let's do the harmonica. And I'll play that note. So let me get set up here. And I'll record 3 notes, and then I'll pick out the best one. Here we go. Okay. So I've got that. All right, and now I'll get set up to record my wine glass. Okay. So I'll move my wine glass around here, and I'll position this. And once again, I'll record 3 strikes and I'll pick out the best one. So ready? Here we go. Okay. And let's see if I got that. Okay. So I've got my harmonica, my guitar, and my wine glass, and they are recorded into the iPhone using GarageBand, and each one is in its own separate track so I can play it back. So now let's go ahead and bring these samples into the E463 keyboard. So now I'm at my E463 keyboard, and I have my iPhone plugged in to the auxiliary in connection on the back. And I have my GarageBand up and running where I have my 3 samples, the harmonica, the guitar, and the wine glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the guitar sound into the keyboard so that I can play that guitar on these keys. So the first step was to press the quick sampling, and I'm going to press that now. Click, and it says quick sample mode. Press key. So it's waiting for me to press a key. And remember, I always press middle C. So I'm going to press that. Click. Now the message says press REC, press record. Now remember, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the record button, and then very quickly after that, I'm going to, let me get my phone going. I'm going to press record and then hit play. I don't want any lag in there because I don't want to record any dead time. So ready? It'll be record, play, record to stop. Here we go. Record, play, record. Okay? And my screen says writing. That's another way of saying storing. So it is now stored that guitar sound into my keyboard. And voila, my keyboard now plays my Alvarez guitar. Okay, so that's how you bring a sound into your keyboard. So I've got it in here now. I've got the guitar. What I want to do now is I want to save that guitar sample out on the thumb drive that I have plugged into the back of this. So remember the steps. The first thing I'm going to do is press and hold the function button. I'm holding the function, and the message popped up, save sample. Yes, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to save the sample, which right now is the guitar. I want to save that out onto the thumb drive. So I'm going to hit the execute button. So it says save sample, yes. Click. Now it says press a key. So once again, I'm going to press the C. And it says sample 005. Now it keeps track of how many samples have I stored on that thumb drive. And it says, you know what, Maury? You already have 4 samples stored there. So this sample, your guitar, is going to be sample number 5. That's fine. I'm going to hit the execute button. Ready? Click. And it says save OK? Question mark. Are you sure? Yes, I am. I'm going to press the execute. Click. And it now says saving. And this could take a few seconds, depending upon how long my sample is. It still says saving. So we've gone, what, maybe 10 seconds? It still says saving. Maybe 15 seconds. I haven't been counting. Maybe we're up to 20 seconds. It will take, finally it's done. It says complete. Okay? So what I just did is I took this guitar sound, this sample, and I stored it out on the thumb drive. So now I can come back tomorrow or the next day or a year from now, and I can pull that guitar sample back into my keyboard without having to go through all of the rigmarole of hooking up my iPhone and bringing it in. And I can store hundreds of samples out on that thumb drive. Okay, so let's pretend it's a week from now. And I come to my keyboard, and what I want to do is I want to load in that harmonica sound. Okay? So this is how I load in the harmonica sound. So I press the function, and now I'm going to use the categories because I want to load the sample. So I press the category button here until the message says load SMPL, load the sample. In other words, it's about to go out onto the thumb drive and pull in one of my samples. I'll have to tell it which one. So it says load sample. Is that what you want? Yes. I'm going to press the execute button. Ready? Click. And it says press a key. So here's my old middle C. Click. Now, it says SMPL001. It starts with the very first sample, which was number 1, and it turns out that was the harmonica. So I could use my plus and minus keys to change the number of the sample. So if I had 8 or 9 samples, I could simply go up and down until I came to the sample number I wanted. I want sample number 1. So that's what I want. That's the harmonica. So I'm going to press execute. Ready? Click. And once again it says load OK? Question mark. Are you sure this is what you want? Yes. Execute. Ready? Click. And it says loading. And once again, this will take, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I'm sitting here. Oh, it's done. It says complete. So now I'm going to press the voice. And my sample voice, your sample voice, is always sample voice number 759. So you may have to press the voice button and dial 759 to get your sample. And in this case, here's my harmonica. Okay, So I could have several hundred sampled sounds out on that thumb drive, and in 20, 30 seconds, I could pull in any one of those samples, and now my keyboard plays that sample sound or that sample instrument. So what this means is, if there's a sound out there in the world, I can have my keyboard play that sound or play that instrument. It doesn't cost anything, and I didn't have to buy any software. I can use GarageBand, which is free with my iPhone. So I hope you have found this interesting. I hope you found it helpful. And thank you for watching. And until I see you again, be well.